Jake, finally. The Yankees win 7-3 at Dodger Stadium. I feel like I just saw Bigfoot live on ESPN, like truly unprecedented stuff. This Yankees team, for whatever reason, just could not get over the hump. At no point did this game feel over. Jake, I know you were texting me the entire time. My mom was texting me the entire time. Never feeling confident. But Ryan Yarbrough outduels Yamamoto, just like we all anticipated. I think this was the weakest matchup we had the whole series. This was the game, Jake, I think we said, yeah, this is going to be an L, and it happens to be the only game we win. So Jason Dominguez, thumb contusion. We'll touch on that at the end of the show. And we know that it seemed minor. I guess we never know, but we'll touch on it. Ben Rice hits his 12th homer off of Yamamoto. Yamamoto did not have his main stuff today. Main story today, I feel, is David John LeMahieu. A lot of us said maybe not to DFA him, but he's a bench player. He's definitely not a guy that you trust. And today, 4 for 5, 2 ribbies, and he didn't just have his pool noodle out there. Like, he wasn't hitting bleeders. These were shots. These were line drives, hard contact the whole day. The Dodgers' top 4, Ohtani, Hernandez, Freeman, Smith, 0 for 16. I mean, it looks like a Bible verse out there. They did nothing today. And you got to give Yankees pitchers credit. They did their job. So I want to start with what this game means because, Jake, I know that's sort of what our takeaway was after game 1 and 2. It wasn't about the standings. It was more so about what the series means. What's the takeaway? Does it mean something if you see this team in October? Was this a case, Jake, in your opinion, of a blind squirrel found a nut and it's just baseball, they won one game? Or is this going to be at least a taste of confidence long term?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, right? You know, I think it's baseball, so I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, see, the Yankees are better, like, you know, whatever. No. And we already talked about that yesterday, but no, I think it's a combination of it's baseball. They're both really good teams, so this could happen if even the White Sox could have won tonight, right? The Orioles could have won. Like, sometimes teams win games that where you're not expecting, but let's not take any credit away from the Yankees. They absolutely outplayed the Dodgers. They looked like the inverse of themselves throughout this series. The Yankees today looked like Dodgers baseball. They won in different ways. They weren't just hitting home runs. They were finding other ways to win this game, put runs on the board, and they were getting good pitching. They got really good performance out of Ryan Yarbrough, former Dodger. And then on the Dodgers side, they're playing Yankees baseball, right? 3 home runs, only one guy with in scoring position the whole day, Gary.
That's
the Yankees had
baseball.
14.
And that's such boring baseball to watch.
Yeah.
And I know you were telling me at the end it seemed like this game was dragging. Completely agree. It was just commercial after commercial. But when you watch your offense
oh my God,
just
totally
never
was.
get in scoring position, it's just boom or bust. We're just waiting on the big hit. Well, it does help in the Yankees' favor that nobody at the top of that lineup did anything for the Dodgers today. And obviously, that's without Mookie Betts, some context there. But overall, this was not what we were expecting. This just wasn't. And this had to happen. And Joseph with the super, I believe he is a big
close
fan
friend
of
of
Jake's.
mine. Yeah.
Yeah. With the 5, we appreciate it. It said Yamamoto, this feels good to read. Yamamoto sucked tonight. Yarbrough is the Dodgers' daddy. I love that came full circle.
I know. It's
good.
It's so funny because, I mean, you put it perfectly in the intro. This is the one game. We looked at this 2 weeks ago. We looked at this series and we're like, yeah, I don't like him against Yamamoto. Because they've had no luck against him. I mean, whether it was the postseason or not, you got to give the guy his props. He has been every bit what they wanted him to be when they signed him. But, yeah, he was not that today, and the Yankees, I thought, did a great job of capitalizing. Everyone in the lineup had a hit except for Aaron Judge and Cody Bellinger, who only had one crack at it and got hit. So,
well, if you told me Judge wasn't going to have a hit in the finale against Yamamoto, I told you we were cooked. It might have been a blowout.
Yeah, but they were going to score 7 runs and be like, no, you're lying. Like 7 runs without Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge was the team yesterday, so definitely not going to put any sort of criticism on Aaron Judge tonight. It's funny, both he and Ohtani went 0 for 4, so yeah.
Yeah, just what people paid for, right? To see DJ LeMahieu. They show up to Dodger Stadium, and this is what they thought was going to happen.
He always has a random game like that. Remember the Phillies game when he had the walk-off home run? We're like, Did that really just happen?
And we'll take it anytime we can get it. And before we get to the Super, by the way, because were there any other thoughts to touch on about the series and what it means? Because we know what games 1 and 2 meant. Mm-hmm. It meant, yes, all you did is impressive. It's good. It's great. But when you get to October, you still have to play us. And you like to call the Mets your little brother, but we're that older brother to you. So that's the way it felt. And I liked what you said pre-show. I want to make sure this is touched on. Mm-hmm. I agreed with it completely. Is that enough happened in this series in a bad way that the Yankees still have to pay attention to know they have to get better. I think it revealed that. You got to get better at third base. Like, you saw you got output at second base today and what it meant to this team. We need that. But then you also still, as you put it, we didn't die in this series. If you gotten swept...
That is how I put it.
The Yankees, it would feel like nothing mattered for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And what happens in terms of the division? What happens in terms of momentum? Do the Yankees, can they withstand learning, oh, wait a second, without Mookie Betts, we're not even competitive against what a lot of people think is the best team in the baseball. When they're not healthy, well, that's a lot to learn about yourself. So I agree with you completely. I don't think we died in this series, but we absolutely lost enough, and especially the style of how we lost. I thought it revealed the Yankees do have a lot to get better at.
The way I look at this is it's like an NFL game that you won. You leave with a win, but you had a awful day on the road, awful day against a peer of yours. So a team that you really respect, but you found a way to win at the end of the game. But during the game, there were so many bad things that came up you can learn from, but you got the win, so you survived. And I know that sounds weird because they lost the series, but that's how I kind of look at it. I mean, essentially, in like a football game, you know, it's a tale of two halves. And I think the first half, the Yankees were god-awful. And you could even say the third quarter. But the fourth quarter, they stepped up, and they found a way to escape with a win and got out of town. And the thing I always say about that is because when you can win those games, right, you can learn from your mistakes. That's the best thing. When you can learn, but you don't have to lose. Because you do lose. You learn more in your losses than you do in your wins. But if you can find like a happy medium where you can learn, but you can win, that is the best scenario possible. So, you know, obviously blowing out the Dodgers would have been amazing, but that wasn't going to happen. So, look, they didn't win the series. They've won 8 this year. And I see a lot of this because I saw A-Rod. I think it was A-Rod that brought up the JV argument. It was like JV, the AL is
discussing
a JV team.
the AL in the National League. And
I
would agree with that.
I totally understand where he's coming from. What I don't like, and it has nothing to do with A-Rod, because, you know, I love A-Rod. It's what Dodger fans or like NL fans were saying, is that they're acting like the Yankees are playing, you know, because they're playing in an inferior league, they're not on their level. I think that couldn't be further from the truth, because if you take away this Dodger series, which you don't even have to because the Yankees won at least one game in it, they beat the Padres, they dominated the Brewers, and they beat the Mets. So the Yankees have been really good against the NL. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't have it where, oh, yeah, the AL's JV, but then we're going to ignore the fact that the Yankees played 2 of the best, you know, NL teams. And
I think
they
in
won
matchup,
both series.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers in matchup, it is varsity versus JV so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
As far as American League and National League, I wouldn't say that it's so drastically different. Like, yes, the American League East is just bad. It's not good. And we do assume that Boston's going to get a lot better. I think Roman Anthony should be called up here pretty soon. You have Bregman go down with an injury. So there's a ton happening around the league. But
absolutely.
You also, people don't provide the context that the Arizona Diamondbacks, right? And Corbin Burns, he got hurt today. A major injury. Not sure exactly what happened. I think they're still hopeful there about the UCL, and I hope the best. But it just kind of goes to show you the Padres haven't been playing the best baseball the last month. They're starting to turn it back around, which is a good thing for them. But yeah, not everybody's playing great baseball. There are a lot of teams losing games this year. So yeah, I don't want to just simplify it to where teams play in division or where they play in terms of National League and American League, I think that's unfair to the Yankees because it just seems like you're going to play 162 and no one's going to give you credit. I don't understand that. So I want to get to this super real quick, and then we'll jump to Ben Rice because I think he definitely deserves a long conversation about what happens here, especially with an injury at all to Dominguez, and we're going to get to it. So Dave M here, and by the way, Dave, I want to give you a special shout out. He was not high on DJ LeMahieu, so I did message him on Twitter. Did want to point out DJ was huge tonight. He was big time. And Dave M, we really appreciate your support with the 2, says, is the Martian about to grant Pablo Reyes a pardon? Jake, what do you think?
I hope not.
We've been long-standing saying we don't want him on this roster. We're not sure what he does.
Well, all right, let's put it this way. Dom Smith, who is in AAA, is raking. They're going to lose him. They're going to lose him. He actually just opted for free agency. So they're going to lose him. And I'm not like a Dom Smith diehard fan over here, but he's raking in the minors. He can hit in the majors. Pablo Reyes can't. He's been atrocious this year in limited opportunities. I just don't understand why you're getting Jazz back, who is an infielder. Okay.
Yes.
If God forbid you have to put Jason Dominguez on the IL, how is Dom Smith not getting that roster spot over Pablo Reyes?
What is Pablo Reyes efficient at? And I'm not being funny. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. These are professional athletes.
It was the reverse splits, remember? That was the entire thing. He hits well against lefties.
You mean just normal splits?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, he literally, that was the reason. He hit 281 against lefties for his career.
What's he hitting against lefties? And I don't mean to put you on the spot because I don't know that number.
Yeah,
but
I don't know
I'm
either.
fairly certain that Pablo Reyes isn't doing damage against left-handed pitching, and he's not a great defender. So I'm just trying to learn. Every player on this roster, regardless of what you think and what you think the Yankees should do with Dominguez or what you think they should do with Ben Rice or Wells, they're all exceptional at something. Austin Wells, exceptional
He's hitting 143
framer.
Against lefties.
What are we talking about
393
here?
OPS.
Austin Wells, incredibly efficient framer of the ball. People talked about his hitting today. They hated, certain at-bats that he's taken throughout the series. All valid, right? We saw the home run, great. But he's great at framing. That's his job. And then the bat can be there. We've seen it there. All players on this roster, we know what they're trying to do. I don't know what Pablo Reyes is trying to do. I have no clue. So I agree with you completely. I just like the idea of putting certain guys on the roster where I know they're at least going to do this one thing well. And then we're going to put them in that niche category on the field. They'll do that well, and then when they get into a different situation, I put somebody else in that spot. I think that's what your bench players should be for. Unfortunately, Dave, it's not how we use them. And I want to get to Ben Rice because Ben Rice should be on all Yankees podcasts, a huge conversation today. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, not sure. But Ben Rice hits his 12th home run, and not off some ho-hum reliever in garbage time. It was against Yamamoto, a player who's in contention for a Cy Young in the National League. This is one of the better arms in the game. Leads the league in 3-2 counts. I thought that was interesting. Very surprising. Baseball savant is electric. However, I'm going to start off by giving you guys the honest truth. The New York Yankees and Aaron Boone tells us that I am creating these lineups, and I believe him. But Ben Rice has to sit because Aaron Boone really wants Trent Grisham to play.
Yes.
As long as that continues to be the case, and mind you, Trent Grisham, over the course of this season, has been good. Very good. Excellent. But who you're leaving on the bench, in my opinion, based on what you're seeing as far as the numbers, as far as the pop, as far as the RBIs, as far as what he's also shown of late against left-handed pitching, here's what I think, Jake. I believe the Yankees have a very solid option in Trent Grisham, who is deserving to play. But you know what? Someone else is more deserving. And I think that when you are the number one option, tough luck. You're a very good backup that easily could fill in. But what Ben Rice is doing is deserving to play. So I'm looking at Ben Rice as an everyday designated hitter, and I'm having to figure out the rest after that. So we're probably going to see that here in the next few days, just with the injury to Jason Dominguez. I know he jammed his thumb up a little bit. We do have a day off tomorrow. Maybe that helps. But, Jake, this just feels like a situation where the Yankees need to take a step back and say, who are the must plays in our lineup? And is it all about staying healthy, or are we trying to play these guys every day and develop them? Because Ben Rice, to me, seems good enough to earn an everyday role with this 2025 Yankees team.
Yeah, he really needs to play every day. He really does. Because it's like I said, you're at the point where you are playing one or two guys that are clearly not one of your best 9 hitters.
Correct.
And you're keeping, not only that, Gary, it's a double whammy because you're keeping Ben Rice on the bench, who is a top 5 hitter on this team. And one could argue he's even higher up on that list. So you see the numbers there. You see how he's vastly improved. He's had more at-bats now, more plate appearances. He's got 11 more runs. He's, has 27 more hits. And it's just the 5 more home runs and barely, more plate appearances. But look at the numbers from 171 to 251, from 264 on base to 342, from 349 slugging to 538. An 880 OPS is 9th in the AL right now. So he's a top 10 guy in the AL OPS wise. He's doing damage. You look at the hard hit percentage, you look at the barrel percentage, the average exit velocity. I actually think the most important thing here is the expected batting average, Gary, because it doesn't feel like he's always unlucky. Like, we've seen that. But he has an expected batting average of 294, and he's hitting 251. And he got off to a red hot start, and then, he kind of slowed down a little bit. From his blistering pace, right? But he still is he's regressed to kind of what I think is going to be. And I think this is what Ben Rice is going to be. I think he's going to be a 250 hitter. Probably hits 30 home runs or close to it, right?
It's a great player.
That's a player that you'll sign up for. OPS over 850, right?
Yeah. Technically what we're losing, and just to be clear here, well, I guess I don't feel like Trent Grisham is that good of a defender where he's like a must play. Like, I don't feel like this is a Harrison Bader situation, in my opinion. Now, I get what Bader was providing. He was an anchor defensively. I know Grisham defensively is good. You see there, he's actually closer to league average, but you also include the arm, right? The arm strength does matter. And so he's probably an average or slightly above average defender. Well, I don't feel that the long-term effect of having Trent Grisham in this lineup is worth having Ben Rice sit down. So I'm not necessarily against Grisham playing. I'm just against it given the options, if that makes sense. I don't understand the decision. But in hindsight, for Aaron Boone, what this does do, this flip-flopping that we're currently seeing, I don't like it. It does maximize health for the most part. You have to imagine if a player only plays 2 or 3 times a week, he's much less likely to go down with an injury. But I do feel like we're holding Ben Rice back quite a bit. And I do want to get to a couple of these supers. We'll touch on them real quick here. Apex with the super with the 2. We appreciate it. Says, we jinx Freed and Warren. We don't believe in jinxes on this podcast. But Yarbrough winning. Yeah, it is wild that happened.
Yeah.
We're not sure how or why it happened, but we'll take them as they come. 2-run home run, can't bench Rice for Stanton.
What
do you think should happen here, Jake?
Well, this is where I think Rice is making enough noise where they're going to get creative with him. You know what I mean?
What do you think the answer is going to be? Because obviously we've kind of given what we would try, but let's actually give predictions of what we think the Yankees will do. Because my prediction is Ben Rice will just go sit down on the bench, and they'll just be flip-flopping Stanton and Rice and I'm not going to like it.
I think they could, but I already think Boone has teased the idea of Ben Rice playing third.
I hope so. Yeah.
And so I think that they're going to kind of look at this like Ben Rice doesn't have to be an everyday third baseman. And by the way, Ben Rice has played catcher a little bit. So don't be surprised if they start getting creative here and they're like, you know what? We're going to sacrifice some of the framing here with Austin Wells and Ascara. And in this particular game, we feel like this is going to be a game we have an opportunity to score a lot of runs in. We're going to need to score some runs. Ben Rice will, have a game behind the plate, and we'll see what he does. Because
how bad is he behind the plate, by the way?
The big issue is the arm strength, but as much as I love Austin Wells, he's got the arm. You saw it today. Great. I mean, he threw him out at third. That was great. But
he does?
Yeah. No, he has an arm. But here's the issue with Austin Wells. It's the pop time. That's his issue. So throwing to second when he stands up, the pop time is just not there.
So what does it matter how strong your arm is if you can't throw guys out?
That's my point. So what I'm saying is the biggest argument against Ben Rice has been that you can steal on him. But they're getting stolen on anyway, regardless who's out there. Who do they throw out at second? Right? So that's how I see it, right? And so I feel like they're going to get creative here because Ben Rice is going to do enough damage, he already has, to force their hand and get creative. And by the way, Trent Grishem, Greg Amsinger on MLB Network said Trent Grishem is his all-star center fielder this year in the AL. So we're talking about a potential all-star outfielder, right? Because, I mean, he might get in the all-star game. You just have to be good for the first half of the year. You know my thoughts on that. But we're talking about a potential all-star outfielder who might get put on the bench. And this is how deep the Yankees are. But this is a problem because we're still talking about needing another bat because the most explosive bats that they have are in the wrong spots. So you have to get creative. If that means Ben Rice has to play, every week he has to play at least one game at catcher, so be it. And then you also have to put him at third base, so be it, right? Jazz can play second, he can play third, he can play short, he can play outfield. Jazz is flexible.
I would probably say, though, if they are going to get creative with Ben Rice, they probably should pick a position and just let him play there. And then if he doesn't play there, you DH him because you're giving Stanton the day off. I personally would
Or Stanton will play third.
Oh, boy.
Remember he said that? He's like, I'll play third. You got to love Stanton.
I don't doubt it at all that he would absolutely try anything. But as far as Ben Rice goes, if you put him at catcher on a Monday, then all of a sudden by Wednesday he's playing third, and then you got him at first base by Friday, and then on the Saturday he's a DH, it's so much work. He's not Ben Zobrist. I know he can play these different positions. I got that. But I don't think that's the right way to go about this. Creativity, in my opinion, is let's find a spot for this bat. And this is what they always told you in Little League. Would the coach always put his arm around you and said, son, if you hit, we're going to find a position for you.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations. And by the way, Michael Kay, when he brings up Stanton's got to play, I sort of agree with him. He has too much of a ceiling for the Yankees not to see that through. They're going to see it through, and they're obviously paying him money to see it through. It's the exact same situation we're watching with DJ LeMahieu. They're seeing it through. He won them a game today, so we got to give him credit. And I want to get to this super, and I want to get to Nick because I don't want to have to wait too long. And also Apex with the super with the 2. We really appreciate the support here. Says, so Yarbrough will absolutely pitch in the World Series. I want to touch on this really fast about Yarbrough because this is a player, you mentioned this, Jake. This is a huge pickup for the Yankees. Totally random, last second, probably seen as like a long reliever, save the bullpen, come in the 4th or 5th. He can stay out there to the 8th or 9th. It'll be valuable for what the Yankees are doing, especially with the volatility of their starting rotation. We know what was happening with Cole. We know what was happening last year with Heel. And yet you turn around, and he's now this project that's turned into someone we trust. Not only someone we trust throughout the regular season against a bunch of hoo-ha regular teams. No, the Los Angeles Dodgers. He went to Dodger Stadium and was competing. He was making Ohtani look foolish. Yes, in a short sample size, but it's big time. It is. So what do you think about the idea? And I know this sounds ridiculous. Ryan Yarbrough starting a World Series game. What would you think about that if the World Series started tomorrow?
It's not crazy, man. I trust him more right now than Clark Schmidt and Will Warren, and that's where you have to start. And Luis Gil isn't revved up, so who would start Game 3? It would be Yarbrough. It just would. And the funny thing here is that you look at Yarbrough, and it makes sense because you saw it earlier in the year. We actually commented on this. I don't know if you remember that he was a weapon in the bullpen because he could go 3-4 innings. They did this. They kind of teased this earlier in the year and didn't give up a run. And Yarbrough had starting pitching background in the past. They worked on it. Matt Blake is a savant. I know we're on baseball savant while I'm saying that, but he is. He is. And the movement profile. Did you see when that graphic?
I missed the graphic. What did it say?
It improved. It was like 2.4 degrees on his break, like his average break. So
do you think that's Matt Blake in the lab showing
100%.
him different things to do? Do you think that's what it is?
Here's the thing. Wow. And I talk about this all the time. Promotions, right? Job promotions. Anybody can get a job promotion, right? But not everybody, when they get the job promotion, can actually thrive in that promotion. And what I mean by this is Matt Blake is a phenomenal teacher of pitching. I don't know if he could work as a manager, but as a pitching coach, he takes guys and you give him a month and he just works magic. You gave him 1 month to work with Ryan Yarbrough, and he has completely changed how he throws his sinker. Completely. I mean,
we're talking. If Paul Skeens was on our roster, it'd probably be the greatest show on earth.
I know, it'd be scary.
He'd be doing witchcraft out there.
But you see these numbers, and albeit, the fastball velo is going to be what stands out to anybody, right?
Mm-hmm. He's the worst in baseball with that fastball velo.
I would literally argue he's one of the more dangerous starting pitchers in the league because if he has his stuff and you're swinging at it, like, you're not going to hit him. He can miss bats. But if you do, you're not going to crush it. He doesn't give up hard contact. Very rarely. So he's just wicked hard to deal with. And he's so economical with his pitches, he can pretty much always give you 6 innings.
There's probably a ton of value, by the way, Jake, in when you pitch him. So think about it this way. On the broadcast, they talked about he's a craft guy, he's a lefty, right? The southpaw, all that's great. But what happens if you throw him after maybe like a freed start? Well, maybe it's not as effective. They're seeing that look. It's a craft guy, a lot of breaking stuff. But what happens? Luis Gil gets built back up towards the end of September, going into October. This is a power, one of the best right-handed power arms in the game. And then you're thinking, okay, we've got to get revved up for this velocity. We've got to get revved up for the power slider. And then all of a sudden the next day you're seeing some drop-down lefty who can command his pitches. He's tops in the game in location, all the movement, right? All that stuff. It's a nice variation to what all these big leaguers see on a day-to-day basis. They don't see this. They don't have a ton of practice at this. I know you watch Yarbrough and you're thinking, how is he blowing 89 past Shohei Ohtani? It's because Ohtani's not used to seeing this. He's used to seeing some right-hander or a lefty. They bring in some craft lefty in the 6th or 7th. He throws 98. He throws a sweeper and he throws a slider. He won't touch the changeup because it's lefty on lefty. There you have it. That's where his practice is. And then you watch Yarbrough and he's throwing a cutter off the plate and it makes guys look silly. It is effective. You've got to tip your cap mainly to what Matt Blake has done here. And I also, for Yarbrough, this is pressure packed. When they flip you the ball, you keep telling everybody you can be a starter. I can do this. I can do exactly what they do in Kansas City. You move a reliever. I can do what Holmes does. You move a closer, a failed closer. You move him into the rotation. I can do that stuff. Most people, given this situation, they'd crumble.
Oh, yeah.
Pitching in New York, we gave you the ball. Look at those numbers. You have no idea what he's throwing.
Well, Gary, look at this. This is what makes him everything that he has, and then you factor in that 13-degree arm angle. I mean, he's not just a
looks like
gimmick
he's throat punching
pitcher.
somebody.
Yeah, he's not just a gimmick pitcher though, because when you hear that, right, 13-degree arm angle, you're like, all right, he's probably one of those annoying, No, he's not a gimmick. Look at all these pitches, like you just said. He still throws the four seam 9% of the time. It's not like he's got enough pitches to be a starter, and they mixed so well. Yeah, like you said, and it goes back to what I was saying about how it's better to not have a finishing pitch, because it keeps guys on their toes. If you're sitting on the airbender change, well, if it's thrown inaccurately or whatever, mislocated, you can crush it. You're sitting on it. You're expecting it. You know he's going to go to it to strike you out. But with Yarbrough, what do you think he's going to do? What's his strikeout pitch? I was just going to ask you,
if it's 0-2, huge matchup, World Series game, you have Ohtani up there. What should Ohtani look for, in your opinion? 0-2. What's he looking for?
He's
look at
laying
these numbers.
off a sweeper.
He's probably laying off a sweeper, and yet statistics say he may. Okay, you can probably say he's not going to go sinker. You have no idea what he's going to do. The only thing you can probably presume he won't do, he won't show you the four-seamer.
No, that would be stupid. Yeah.
He's got 4 different pitches he trusts, and the numbers show how much. There are players who tell us all the time, oh, no, I've been working on this changeup, and not only that, I trust that changeup. Okay, well, show it to me. We heard Rodon say it earlier this year. Hasn't he told us that a lot, by the way? I've been working on this pitch. I trust it. Then we see the regular season. He's not throwing it. And then Boone describes him as a 2-pitch pitcher. We come into 2025. All of us said we'll take a 4 ERA, a 3.8 ERA, and take that. What did we see? We see Rodon actually displaying confidence with his usage rate. He actually throws those pitches, and it's paying dividends. He's throwing that sinker. He's throwing the changeup. It's working. And I want to get to this super, by the way. Nick, we really appreciate the super for the 20, says, thanks for what you guys do every game. We really appreciate that. Thank you, Nick.
Appreciate it, Nick.
Oh, this is a Packers fan. It says, only Yankees post-game I will listen to. Wish my Brewers had a good podcast like this one. Go Yankees. So I'm sure there's some really good Packers podcasts. There's a lot of football podcasts, but
yeah.
But that's the reason we started this thing. We're passionate about this team. We care, and we learn a lot from our audience. So they have a lot of good stuff to say.
They got Tom
we
Grossi.
Appreciate you being here.
And
What's that?
They got my buddy Basaraski, and they got Tom Grossi.
For what?
Packers. Brewers, I don't know a Brewers content creator, so I would recommend
I've never
one
seen
if I
one,
did.
and they're literally content creators. I mean, there's so many content creators today.
I know.
There's a podcast for everything. There's cooking. There's cleaning. There's a Brewers podcast.
There's a cleaning podcast.
Yes, dude. You go to
There's
YouTube.
a sleeping podcast. They just sleep. They don't even talk. Well, we found that out with the sleeping streams that I didn't even know existed.
Hey, I do a sleeping stream. If I was going to be making money sleeping, I would do it. It doesn't involve any research. I don't have to do any research to fall asleep. I scroll TikTok and I'm out of there. But Scott Ross, we really appreciate it. We've seen you the last few days supporting this podcast. I want to thank you for that. Thank you for the 5.
Thank you, Scott.
This win is the difference, and I agree with this completely, between disaster and just a bad series in May. Go get us an infielder and another arm. So
Agreed.
I want to touch on that conclusion from Scott, because I do agree with this. The Yankees do, in my opinion, especially in these big games with these matchups, you see a Tatis Jr., you see a Merrill, you see an Ohtani, a Freeman. They need another arm in the bullpen. And I know you mentioned earlier, Jake, that you were really happy with what Devin Williams did today.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want someone out there that I really trust outside of Weaver. I need one more guy.
I assume you're talking about outside Fernando Cruz as well.
That is correct. Because one thing, there's one catch to Cruz, and I'm very happy you brought him up.
I knew I had to tee you up.
I do not trust the control.
Yep.
I love the output. I love the fact that he's attempting, just like Jack Curry mentions all the time. You need to be attempting to miss bats. Your big-time guys that are in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, they got to miss a bat. It's not the main thing, but it's important. Well, Cruz can miss a bat. We've seen what that splitter will do. Having said that, Cruz can lose the strike zone. Am I comfortable flipping him the ball in a huge matchup in October? I trust him to pitch, but do I trust him to pitch in the 8th or 9th inning or the 10th inning? No, because I don't necessarily trust he's around the strike zone. So I want to see maybe one more arm in the rotation. So we're talking about the different areas, like the outside areas of our roster. We're not talking about going to trade for a Paul Skeens. We're not talking about these superstars. I want another guy I can trust around the zone, more than likely a veteran that Matt Blake can utilize later this season. And then as far as infielders go, I think we talked about some of our options there, Jake, one of them being in Baltimore. There are quite a few options that are starting to materialize. So I like the idea of the Yankees going to get an infielder and going to get one more guy that you can trust that can pitch the 8th inning.
Yeah, I like the idea as well. Do you have anybody in mind that you're thinking of? I mean, I know you're right by the Diamondbacks, and I think they are going to be sellers at the deadline. I do.
Yeah, but they don't have very many guys pitching very well at the back end of this bullpen. They don't know who's closing games. But yeah, I know that everyone's been telling us, Ketel Marte, they're not trading him. It's not happening. But as far as relievers go, no. I think my answer will become more accurate and just more understood when the deadline comes around in late July. Because at that point, we'll know for certain. You'll start to hear the rumors already. This team's selling. But if you really look at it right now, unless a team is looking like Baltimore, there aren't going to be many teams that say, yeah, we're out of the wild card, that are willing to say that here in early June. It just doesn't happen. So, yeah, I don't know exactly who I would go after. Obviously, you're going to hear names. We want Mason Miller or whoever, some big-time closer. I get that. But I just want someone I can trust. That's all. Maybe a David Robertson-esque type guy that you can trust, throw him the ball, and we don't have to clench our butt cheeks in the 8th or 9th inning in these big matchups, which we clearly are doing right now.
So the reason I brought that up, by the way, is because the Pittsburgh Pirates basically have just let everybody know that everybody's available except for Skeens and O'Neal Cruz. Is there anybody there that you like? Because to me,
Bednar?
Well, IKF makes a ton of sense as a hitter. Mm-hmm. But as far as pitching, they have literally been connected to Bednar for like 4 years.
That would be the ideal fit. A dual package of those two players. And by the way, do you remember we were having this conversation about the Marlins? We're like, we're going to get Jazz, and we're also going to get who was it? Who was the other player we were getting that we didn't get? It was the reliever, actually, the closer. Was it the lefty? He signs with the Dodgers. Well, what's his name, guys? The Chow will be able to help us out.
Yeah, he just pitched. I can't
Taylor. It was like some Taylor.
Tanner Scott.
Tanner Scott. There you go.
I blanked too. Totally blanked.
Wasn't a Taylor or a Tyler, but there you have it.
Yeah. By the way, do you know who's leading the Pirates in holds in that bullpen?
Who's leading the Pirates in holds? I have no idea. No.
Dennis Santana.
Good for him.
Dennis Santana. Dude, their bullpen is hilarious. Dennis Santana and Caleb Ferguson are two of their top arms. Two former Yankees.
They're going to have a lot of guys traded over there. I think they're going to hold on to Paul Skeens. Yeah, they're going to hold on to Paul Skeens. Any veteran reliever should be way out the door in Pittsburgh. They're going nowhere. They know this. But yeah, like I said with Skeens, people are going to say they want him. I want him on this team. Anyone wants him. Boston wants him. Philly wants him. He's not available. Why? It's not that they think they're going to do anything with him. It's that he puts cheeks in the seats, and that's what it is. And he's cheap for the next 4 years, so he's just going to rot away over there.
By the way,
yeah. And I don't freak out about Baseball Savant, but we've also watched this guy go to work.
Yeah,
and
he's had two bad back-to-back years, but he's been on a bad team. So if he went with Matt Blake and he's already got great stuff, he misses bats. Mm-hmm. Because
what does this look like with Matt Blake, by the way?
Well, here's the thing that I would love to know. Does he incorporate, because Matt Blake will take a guy and be like, hey, have you tried throwing a sinker? And then they start throwing a new pitch and you're like, oh my God, where did this come from?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably likely that what would be the difference between the Yankees trading for Bednar and not would be whether or not Matt Blake, because he's the one who probably looks at this stuff in depth before the trades happen. Mm-hmm. He would probably look at it and say, see that splitter he uses? I think it's 16 or 18%. It's small from here. But the point is, see how he doesn't use it most of the time? What do the analytics say about that splitter? What does it say about the spin rate there? What does it say about the curveball? And if Matt Blake feels like that breaking stuff isn't going to be a weapon, he is not going to go for it. So we'll learn.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I just wanted to see real quick if I can even find it. Oh, yeah, run value. So his splitter, yeah, I mean, it's got a 1 run value back-to-back years, and he doesn't even throw it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting because this is IKF and David Bednar for Kyle Carr, probably like a mid-tier prospect and a back-end prospect.
Yeah, the Pirates probably aren't going to get a ton. They're just not.
But that would be a nice package for the Yankees, and it wouldn't take them out of getting like a Freddie Peralta if they wanted one.
I think we'd be much better, by the way, because you have to look at this conceptually from IKF. What's the difference between at-bats from IKF and at-bats from third baseman we've seen for the past several weeks? What does that look like?
That's exactly why I've been pushing this, because if you see here,
his savant looks like the Titanic.
Yeah, but well, you got the squared up percentage, you got the whiff. Like he just does a nice job of getting on base. He's hitting 303, right? Beggars can't be choosers. And when you have bottom of the league production that rivals that of the Rockies, okay? When it comes to 8 and 9 hitters, IKF would be a godsend. You would quickly forget that you even wanted a guy that could slug. Now, if I could have him or Moncada, depending on, the cost, I think I like Moncada. But I think IKF is a reasonable ask.
I would agree with you.
There's zero chance this guy makes it through the deadline not traded, because there's no point for the Pirates to even have signed him. They signed him to be a plug-and-play guy, and if they end up being a contender, great. But if not, he was always getting traded. That was the entire point. You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree with you. I agree on Moncada. People are going to look at this and say, well, Moncada, I mean, he's not a great player. You're not looking for great. You're looking for greatness in comparison to what you've got. And if you're already a really good team, well, getting rid of a third baseman that you don't feel like you're getting a ton of production from, like really any production at all, putting someone that you can say he's productive is a massive difference. You may not notice it in the big games, but I promise you, throughout a long season, you will notice the difference between Moncada and the guys that the Yankees are currently rolling out. So we're not saying it's going to be him. It could be anybody else. It could be IKF. It could be someone else in the league. We'll find out what they do. I'm assuming they will make a trade, though, for a third baseman. I genuinely believe that. I know Jazz is planning to move to third. I still think they're going to get a third baseman. I do. And Mark, Mark with the super, we really appreciate the 20. And he just became a member as well. I'll put him up on the screen here in a second. Mark says, this is the Yankees I'm familiar with. Win the game, Yamamoto pitches, and have it be a game where DJ, of all people, goes 4 for 5. This is the definition of counter logic. But hey, a win is a win. Let's go Yankees. So again, Mark, we really appreciate it. Nobody thought we were winning this game. And there it is. Mark became a YouTube member. As always, we really appreciate that. Yeah, what did you think about DJ? Because I think now's the time for us to talk about DJ and the fact that we're just thinking this player. Like, do you think this is just an anomaly and we should just be happy it happened and then just kind of wash it, or do you think this is a sign that the Yankees should maybe give him an opportunity? Because I still don't feel like he's deserving of a long-term opportunity. I just think I should be happy about this. That's it.
Well, all DJ needs to do is just work into their little rotation that they have, right? So, like, he doesn't need to play every day. Is it an anomaly? Yes, he's not going to go 4 for 5 every game. But I have been saying he has hard contact more often than not. This is his first 4-hit game since he was one of the best hitters in baseball. So I don't want to put too much stock into that point, but the point being is he's not last year and he's not the year before DJ LeMahieu. he can help. He can contribute. If he stays healthy, he will 1,000% be on the postseason roster. He's not a bad defender. He can't run a lick, base runner. But this is somebody that very well, if you need a hit and he gets things going, he could be streaky. And if you get him in the right spot, and right now, if he can build off this performance, he's going to be a guy that you can trust, I think, in those situations in the short term. But as far as a long-term guy for the year, I just don't think that's what you should expect. The way I look at DJ is that he is going to likely play every day. When Jazz comes back, Jazz will play third, DJ will play second. This is going to boost his standing, right? If these were power rankings, DJ just moved up the rungs a little bit. Definitely moved past Peraza and B-Boss. And Pablo Reyes is even on the ranking.
He's not on the radar.
No.
He's not on the UAV.
No, not even close. So the thing here, though, is LeMahieu, to me, is starting every day until they acquire somebody. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do what they did with Jazz Chisholm and they acquire somebody before the deadline actually hits.
Okay.
Because it wasn't the day of. I wouldn't be surprised they did something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was earlier. Like, we're talking this month, right? So that's how I look at him. So I never look at him as, from here on out, I'm not going to look at him as a disappointment. He is essentially, whatever he does is a positive. And when he's a negative, then you just don't play him. And he's going to be a guy that I think he's going to get hot, and he could build off this game. And this is when you play him. And as soon as he starts to cool down and hits a rough patch, and you're starting to see the soft contact is coming back and he's killing bugs, there you go. Now you have your answer. But while he's hitting 102 off the bat and has really good exit velocity, average exit velocity, and he's walking, yeah, I don't mind him playing. But I'm not sitting here saying that he's a star or he's coming back. I know he's 36 and Goldschmidt's 37, but we have to be understanding here. He has lost a step because of these injuries. He's not going to be the same DJ LeMahieu. He's just not. But he can be a decent form of what he used to be, and that would be good enough to play on this, in this lineup. So that's how I see it.
Okay, so if he plays great, you ride the momentum for a little bit, and then if he falls off, you kind of get off the horse. It kind of reminds me actually of Taco Bell for me. I'll go to Taco Bell, and it'll be the best experience I've ever had. I'm like, wow, I haven't been here in 4 years. This is great. Look at my wife. She's like, you want Taco Bell again? Why? And yet we'll go back, and they'll give me I'll get a Doritos Locos Taco, and there'll literally be a little squirt of meat in there, and it won't even be warm. And I'll look at my wife and say, we never should come back here. And I don't go back to Taco Bell for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, you'll catch me back at a Taco Bell randomly, and it'll be great. So I just think DJ is in this spot. The menu's horrible. It is. It is.
Oh,
very
you like
bad.
this? Yeah, we're gonna discontinue it. I was a big Loaded Grillers fan, and
then we're gonna make you tweet about it for 5 years,
Yep.
and then we're gonna bring it back, and then
then
you're gonna be 40 years old and not want it.
Remember they got rid of the Mexican pizza. They're like, we brought back the Mexican pizza, and people were like, all right, well, I go somewhere else for that.
It's like my buddies are almost in their 40s. They're not going for your Mexican pizza anymore. But Kyle, we really appreciate the two. Thank you. Says the AL All-Stars are screwed with Boone managing. Yeah, luckily, actually, the games do tend to be close in the All-Star games. Probably one of the more competitive All-Star games you get.
Yeah.
So I guess that'll be our first appetizer to what Boone does in highly competitive games. I don't know if he'll be there, but I guess hopefully he is.
So there'll be two Yankees starters. It'll be Fried and Rodon.
Correct.
And then Skubal. How many starters do they choose? 5, 6?
I genuinely have no idea. No clue.
I mean, all
I know is they need to fix the home run derby. That's the only thing I care about. Let the ball land before you show us the hitter again. They're like watching a dude just go, just swinging his bat. And it's like, I know the number. You just showed me that Pete Alonso hit a ball 486. That's amazing. But all we care about is seeing where the ball lands. I don't think they get that. So,
no, I don't think they do either. But
Apex with a super with the 2 says, so do we try and keep Yarbrough beyond 2025? Jake, what do you think?
Well, he's going to get paid, but, I mean, this is going to be up to Matt Blake. Because if Matt Blake is like, slow your roll here, I can work my magic, but this guy, he's better than I think you realize, and we're going to need to bring him back. Then, yeah, I think it really depends on what they do at the deadline, to be honest with you. If they go out and get Freddie Peralta, they'll probably let him go, or
who was that righty arm again? You always bring him up. That reliever that we had, that we just let him go this offseason. He was good for us all last year.
Tonkin?
Who was Michael Tonkin.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, if you had never seen Michael Tonkin before in your life, and mind you, most of us here have.
Best example ever.
Michael Tonkin looked like a guy that if you'd never seen him, you'd say, well, the Yankees probably want him pitching the 7th and 8th, right? Like next year, they probably want him to be part of the future. He gives you output. He can get some big matchups. He can get some outs. You're nervous. He seems okay. He seems to have composure. And yet, the name still carries weight. Like, this is still Ryan Yarbrough, and I want to give him credit. But what he's done in the past, which is pretty much stick around in the bullpen, sometimes that sticks with you. Whether it's fair or not, maybe you pitch well for the season, but then at the end of the year, let's just say you lose in the championship series or you lose in the World Series, we're probably not going to be thinking of Ryan Yarbrough. They're going to turn around and be like, is Ryan Yarbrough coming back? They're like, no, we like this other option better, and they just move on. So I don't want to say that they should try to keep him or not. I'm going to see what it looks like in October. But if it looks great through October, I'm going to be vouching for him 100%.
Yeah, those pitchers like that don't grow on trees. So
No.
if he just, because that to me, that transcends anything Matt Blake can do for you. If you pitch in October, it means you have clutch. You have a clutch gene. And based on the October numbers, this is why you and I initially were not high on Max Fried coming to the Yankees, because he struggles in October. We'll see if it changes, but that's a big deal, right? So, yeah, if Yarbrough comes out and he's just lighting up, and just looks amazing, okay. I mean,
we'll have a conversation then, for
yeah.
sure.
I mean, Nestor Cortez, he looked great throughout the Yankee career. He was really important. And then all of a sudden, his entire legacy is based on that one pitch that he threw coming off an injury out of the bullpen to one of the greatest postseason hitters the game has ever seen.
Jordan Montgomery pitched well in the regular season. The Yankees still traded him away for Harrison Bader and told us that the reason is they don't trust him in when it actually matters. So what it tells you is that the Yankees can watch real, genuine output and say, that's regular season stuff. That's depth stuff, right? And the Yankees have shown they're willing to pull the plug right there at the very end. Just when you think someone's a part of the future, they may not be. So they tend to land on their feet quite a bit. They are making some positive decisions as far as personnel goes. So I'm going to give them credit. I assume this is just going to work out. They'll do the right thing. And Mark wants to bring up, really, this is more pitching coach related, Matt Blake related, of course, but more so Garrett Cole and the job that he's done. So, Mark, we really appreciate the 5 says to the Matt Blake conversation. Let's not downplay just how much of a pitching coach Cole is on the bench. It's really, truly amazing piece we have. So we'd much prefer if he was pitching, and as would Mark, but there is something to him being a veteran. I mean, he's 35. Is he 35?
Oh, who?
Garrett Cole. I believe he's 35.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he has a ton of experience against different bats, what they like to hit, what they don't. It's going to help our arm. So I would assume, to Mark's point, he is having an impact.
Yeah. And what I'm going to be really curious with Garrett Cole is, are the analytics going to go up when he gets back from this? Like, is this, because obviously he needed to have this, this surgery, right?
Yes.
But we talked about it, like, last year even he was showing signs of that. So, like, how healthy was he? Because if you look, he was a savant, like, favorite. Everything was red. But I don't think people realize, like, if you go to, say, 2023, this is a good example. I'll put it up here for you. So that's 2023. And, like, it's not amazing. It's definitely not what he was on the Astros. or when he first signed with the Yankees. But then, like, dude, you see what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't look like a Garrett Cole Savant. And obviously Savant isn't the end-all be-all. But part of it does get me kind of excited, like, the impact Cole could have coming off this. And, like, he needed this. Maybe he needed it earlier. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, because it seemed like everyone was saying the conversation on Garrett Cole is that this was inevitable. Everyone that watched the Yankees, and mind you, we're sitting here, it is practically midnight Eastern time. All of the people who are listening to this podcast are diehard Yankees fans. They are, exclusively. And this entire audience, that includes the two hosts that are sitting here, we knew Garrett Cole last year was not the Garrett Cole that we'd been watching. It was still highly serviceable. He wasn't very good in those Boston games still. But yet, the numbers were still positive because he can think his way out there. He knows how to pitch. He's not just a thrower. He didn't get here because he's just throwing 100. No, he's locating. He's high spin. But the spin rate, it doesn't look like that, Jake. I'll tell you this. Garrett Cole was an appointment. I have to watch his starts. In 2024, he was not. So, did it mean that it was inevitable for this surgery? Probably. But maybe it was more of a situation like what we saw to Masahiro Tanaka. Masahiro Tanaka, for those of you who remember, and a lot of you do, Tanaka had a partially torn UCL. And he pitched with that for really the final 3 or 4 seasons as a Yankee. Some big starts. That big start he had in 2017 against Houston, he did that with a partially torn UCL. So some pitchers need to live at 100 miles an hour. For him, his bread and butter is that splitter. Garrett Cole's bread and butter is that four-seam fastball. So two totally different pitchers. Obviously, one could live without a full-strength UCL. One could not.
You made me curious, so I had to throw Masahiro Tanaka up there. They do actually have his stuff. You know,
it really is
Savant's
impressive they have that.
Yeah, Savant's been around since 2016. It just grew like tremendously to the point where now we bring it up every show, right around the last couple of years. But yeah. Joe's been telling me about Connor Griffin. I don't know if they would trade him, though. He's a young prospect. I don't even think he's he's their number 2 prospect. Mm-hmm. And I don't think has he played yet? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, they're not going to trade him. He's hitting 310. Nope. No, that's their guy.
Hey, do you want to give us a player you're super hopeful for? Yeah, we'd love to have him. They're like, I bet you would.
Yeah, no.
I'll turn force trades on and we'll make this trade. Yeah, but Joe, we really appreciate it. It's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, we can want players as bad as it doesn't matter what type of fit you think they are. If they're not a free agent, the other team has to be just as motivated as you are to click that button. And if they're not, it's not happening. So that's another hoop that Brian Cashman does have to get through. So we'll see what he does. We do see another trade here from Scott Ross. Scott, we appreciate the 5. Says, what about a package for Gallen and Perdomo? Now, mind you, I'll read the whole thing. Perdomo can play second base, third base. D-backs have to sell with Burns going down. So I completely agree. The Diamondbacks are in trouble. Health-wise, they are in trouble.
Man,
they're going to be a team.
Would be crazy.
Perdomo would be unbelievable. Do I think it'll happen? No. But if it did, it'd be a great pickup. So maybe. You never know who's available to be traded. This isn't one of those players where you're saying, oh, he's a superstar in the game. So certainly it's probably possible. Ketel Marte is certainly not. But this could happen. No. What do you think? What do you think about Gallen, by the way? Because Gallen has shown that when he's got it going.
Gallen.
Yeah, he's a big game guy.
But he's just not. He's not Gallen this year, which I feel for this guy right now. Because think about what he's going through. He's never looked this bad, Gary, ever.
Never. No.
And he is a free agent.
This is his contract year?
This is his contract year. You hate it, right? Because it's just like, especially baseball, you go through all these hoops of like arbitration and like having to prove yourself. And he's great every year. And then the one time he needs to be great, his contract year, this has been horrendous. And
Jake, you know what's funny?
it does beg the question: is he injured?
I have no idea.
Because, like,
but
I mean,
you're not going to say I'm hurt. If you're hurt, you're going to try and
Exactly.
pitch through it in a contract year.
look at this. Like, how did he
man.
go from like this stuff? Oh, that wasn't great. But how did he go from like all this to like, yeah, there you go.
It's okay to have one down year, but when you're talking about this now looks like the common denominator is like
Dude, that's
he's
sad.
going to be. I don't even know what occurred, but let me say this about Zack Gallen.
Yeah.
When you're in a contract year, you're more likely than ever to play through injury, but I won't just chalk it up to he's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Zack Gallen's probably praying, please, for the love of God, get me in that pitching factory that is the Yankees. Matt Blake, the staff, Garrett Cole sitting in the dugout, Max
Yeah.
Fried, Carlos Rodon sitting in that dugout. I can learn from all these guys, and it's not like he's some 22-year-old that's just got to be like, Garrett Cole, what do you think? No, this is a veteran at this point. He's a free agent. But Zack Gallen, we've seen what he's done to us, by the way. He's put us in a blender before at Yankee Stadium. So we know what the ceiling looks like for this player, but you have to ask yourself, what is Matt Blake going to get out of this guy? And is it health related? Because they're not going to trade for him. I guess we've done it, right? We did it with Frankie Montas. We traded for a lemon. Was never healthy. So I've seen crazier things from the Yankees. But I don't know. I think that's an interesting player because we know what he can do. But in 2025, I mean, there are going to be a lot of people who read that and go, I don't want him, because they obviously see the numbers of late.
It would be funny to get Zack Gallen when he was literally traded for Jazz Chisholm. Upright, like straight up.
That's a wild trade.
Yeah. Because they were both top prospects. That's wild.
Yeah, that's a crazy trade. And I'm going to read this super. I'm just going to call you Ash because I can't read it. But I really appreciate you
Ash
getting
Trader?
involved. Is that 10 pounds, I believe?
Yes. Thank you for the 10 pounds. We
Yeah,
appreciate
so
it.
thank you for the 10 pounds. Is Trent Grisham the most nonchalant out? Oh my gosh, I love this. In the league when catching the ball, LOL. Yes.
The broadcast brought it up today.
It looks like he's playing catch with his son in the front yard.
It's so funny.
Hey, at least he's confident.
Hey, as long as he makes the play, I don't care. But that's the thing. Would I ever play like that? No, because think about all the pressure you have on yourself where I'm being, lackadaisical and no one cares when you're making the catches. But as soon as you drop one, oh, man, it's going to be loud. So
if he has that judge moment, maybe not in that.
he has had a moment. We saw that.
Which one was that?
Against Seattle, I think it was. Or
Was it the ground ball or fly ball?
It was the fly ball.
Okay, because I remember him last year booting a ground ball, and it literally looked like he was just valet jogging to the ball and just didn't care.
God.
But what we've learned is it's not that he doesn't care, it's just how he plays.
Yeah.
He does it every play. He is literally the Robinson Cano of center field, absent of a Hall of Fame bat. But the point is, defensively, it is literally, he's barely putting his glove above his shoulder. Maybe not even. He's catching the ball, and then he just flips the ball back in.
I guess it's better than, oh my God, I forget who, was it against the Mets? The dude that just threw the glove up in the air? No, it was the Rockies, because that was only a 9-win team would do that. The second baseman, I forget who hit it against the Yankees. We never actually talked. Do you remember this?
I don't remember the play at all.
He took his glove and just threw it up in the air.
So what happens if a ball's over your head, you toss your glove up, it hits the ball, and it comes down and you catch it? Are you out? I'm going to guess you're not. I'm going to assume it's like a
I feel like there has to
automatic
be like
bases.
a possession of the glove. Because, all right, so do you remember when El Duque, I think it was El Duque, on the Yankees, couldn't get the ball out of his glove and then
he
just
tossed
tossed it to the first baseman? Mm-hmm. He had to catch the glove.
Yes.
So possession of the glove meant the guy was out, which is the silliest thing ever when you really think about it. It was just so funny to watch that whole play.
What else was he going to do?
Yeah, no, it was so funny. But when he threw the glove in the air, I'm going to have to look it up because that is something that clearly, as you can see, has been on my mind since they played the Rockies. and it wasn't that long ago, but it still feels like it was a while ago.
Yeah, and Dave M says with a super, Dave, thank you for the 5, says, so 1 4-hit game changes everything. Thank God it wasn't Pablo. I think we all agree with that. I think if Pablo Reyes had a 4-hit game, it would probably be a net negative for this team. Seeing another day of him would be bad.
It's not
and
an
we
out.
know it would follow up with an 0 for 25. We just know
yeah.
that. So I completely agree, Dave. It cements him. Your conclusion here, he's a bench bat. It does cement him as a player who should have a role. He's just not as a starter. But right now, Jake always alludes to the hard contact. He's good enough with injuries around the yard to play every day. But once guys start getting healthy, Jazz starts coming back to the field, you make a trade at the deadline. Completely agree, Dave. This is a player who should be sitting down next to Aaron Boone, and given an emergency, he's vet enough, trusted enough to go out there, make hard contact, field his position. Completely agree.
So 2 things. One, I agree with that. I do think it's like if his launch angle dissipates and he's just crushing ants in the middle of the infield dirt, then I'm out. But as long as he continues to hit like these weak line drives or strong line drives, like hard contact, and he's elevating the baseball, I think that's where DJ LeMahieu thrives. He's always been a line drive hitter until recently with the injury. He just lost all that power, and you started to see him just every single hit. It just felt like, or every single piece of contact just felt like he was killing bugs. So, yeah. If he continues that, he can be an asset. Again, I look at him as strictly a guy that is going to be on this roster. If he stays healthy, will be on this roster come October. And he's essentially one of the opportunities, one of the options, one of the, items at Boone's disposal. And when he wants to play him, he can. When he doesn't want to play him, he doesn't have to play him. Like, he doesn't have to have a certain role. Doesn't matter that he's getting paid X amount of dollars. The Yankees have made that clear at this point. Yes, $15 million means we're not going to DFA him. But it doesn't mean that he has to play every single day, which they've already made very clear because he doesn't play every single day. The second thing, it's funny because I just uncovered that, shocker, the umpires totally blew it. I saw somebody in the comment section say it too. Umpire totally blew the call. When he threw the glove up in the air, it's actually considered a violation.
There you go.
And all runners, including the batter who was running, are awarded 2 bases for what is considered a thrown ball or 3 bases on a batted ball. So since it was a batted ball, they'd be awarded extra bases, essentially.
I was gonna say it should be 3. It should be a catastrophe.
Yeah, then they just totally missed it. Yeah, the umpires just totally missed it.
It doesn't surprise literally anybody.
It's the Rockies, so it is what
is
it is.
launch angle on Baseball Savant? Because they have all those numbers. It is. Okay, so let's just take a peek before we move on from DJ. Let's take a peek at what his launch angle is, because his hard contact suggest his numbers should be a lot better than what they are right now. And then today we got the results, so good for him, good for us. It's amazing. But I want to see what that launch angle's at, because when guys start getting healthy, we make a trade, and then all of a sudden I see DJ LeMahieu on the field and I look at a launch angle that is not satisfactory. Well, how good is hitting the ball hard if you're spraying it right into the ground? So
Yeah.
I'm
trying to find
curious.
I don't know where it is, but I'm trying to find it.
But you've seen it before on Savant?
Yeah. No, I definitely... It is on here.
Okay, well, I'll get to this super chat from Apex. In the meantime, Apex, thank you for the 2 and getting involved. Tonight is how Game 1 and Game 5 should have gone, correct? No. Game 1 and Game 5 went exactly the way it always should have for the Yankees. Their personnel, in terms of who they had out on the field, we talked about Anthony Rizzo the whole year and his inability to figure it out over at first base, who takes the ball, who covers, right? We talked about the fact that Aaron Judge had no business playing center field, but obviously you bring in Juan Soto. It was a move that we loved. But what came with that is Aaron Judge is now playing out of position. The defensive stats suggested that. So, no, exactly what happened should have happened. I tipped my cap to the Dodgers. They won the World Series. We blew that. Now we need to come back here, get better. We did. Jake, what do you got?
It's the highest launch angle by a mile for his career.
What is the launch angle at now?
8.6. Last year it was 1.9.
So what do these numbers mean? Like, what is 8.6 actually meaning?
Well, when you get closer to, say, the negative, like, you can't have a negative average, right? We can say he kills bugs and all that. He's not hitting on the ground every single play.
So a 0 launch angle would essentially mean you hit an equal amount of just balls straight on the ground versus in the air, versus 8.6 means that in this moment, DJ puts the ball in the air significantly more. It's actually significant. More than, what's this best year of his career? Would you say 2019?
Yeah, so 2019, 6.6. And he's hit 8.6 this year, 1.9 last year, so that's a 6.7 increase, 3.8 the year prior, and then 3. So really you want him I think ideally you want him in the 5 to 6 range for his swing. So, I mean, 8.6 is a little high, in my opinion. It's a little more
that's like pop-up territory. If he's in the 5 to 6 range, that tells us it's an indication of line drives.
Yes. Okay. That said, I'm willing to take the 8.6 because I'll take pop-ups and sacrifice flies over infield choppers when you can't run, you're not beating anything out. And it tells me that he's made an adjustment on his swing. You'll get the exit velocity here. This is a good indication. 91.8, 88.5 last year, 89.6 the year prior, 89.2. This is the highest since 2019. So
it's a good thing.
There are adjustments being made. The barrel percentage, as you can see here, has gone up almost an entire point from last year. And the hard hit percentage, right? So you can see here that, yes, he made adjustments and maybe he overcorrected and he's going to be more of a pop out guy. But I think people would rather have that than just those ground balls that he doesn't have the speed to beat out. So they're just a pain in the ass to watch.
Yeah, it's a valet jog. Ball on the ground, he's an out. So,
so
this is a good thing. It's an indication that he's getting away from killing the bugs. I assume 8.6 is not going to last. And Dave M with the super. Dave, thank you for the 2. Says, I don't trust Boone to bench him if he reverts. We've got to just see what he does. If all of a sudden we look up and it's August, DJ LeMahieu is hitting 190, the exit velocities dip, but he's still just kind of fielding his position and just filling in a spot. Yeah, Dave, we're gonna bring that up on this show. We'll definitely talk about it. I'm gonna give Aaron Boone some slack here. I don't think he'll play him if he's not performing. I think the Yankees just have too many options, and I would assume after the deadline they absolutely will have better options, that there's just no way you can justify having him out on the field. So, yeah, Jake, do we have anything else we wanted to talk about? I know there was one situation I want to talk about with Wells swinging first pitch in the first inning, which just made no sense at all.
Yeah.
27 pitches. We saved it for the very end of the show. Didn't want the show to be negative. It wasn't. But Austin Wells swinging in that moment just made me question who's in the ear of some of these hitters. Like, it really made me wonder. Yamamoto's on the ropes, 27 pitches already in the first inning. You sort of know you really want to get to the bullpen on this guy, and you go out there and you swing first pitch and hit a ground ball. I didn't get it, Jake.
No, it's just not economical. We talk about that with pitch count for a pitcher, but we never talk about it with a hitter. You know, it's just not, because you have to think of it like this. You take 100 and you subtract it by how many pitches a pitcher has on the mound, and that's how many pitches they have left, just estimating, right? You don't know how the game's going to go. They might keep them in a little bit longer. Guys just don't pitch past 100 pitches very often anymore. So that is that, and it's become in itself its own little mini game, and because of that, pitch count matters, right? It's also the driving force of why really doing what the Dodgers did yesterday allows them to have a better chance to win the next day, because you use up those pitchers, and now the Yankees don't have everybody. So Babe Ruth did say yesterday's runs don't matter today. I understand the premise; he's absolutely right. But in the same boat, the way the MLB, the way this game, the way this sport has kind of changed, it does count for today. And the Yankees were playing. Yeah, Yankees were playing at a disadvantage. They absolutely were, because their bullpen was already really feeling it. And Ryan Yarbrough had to come out and give them 6 innings. And Yamamoto, they had plenty of guys to go in the bullpen if he couldn't do it, but they were not expecting him to do this. So, yeah, to your point, it ended up being a bad start for him, and he was out before Yarbrough, which shocked me. He was out in the 4th inning. But really, you have him at 28 pitches early on in the game. Wells should have taken every pitch that wasn't a strike. And even he should have started off probably taking the first 2 pitches, because all you're really trying to do is drive up that pitch count. And you want to see pitches. You want to find your pitch. But swinging at the first pitch there, you have to think, even if it's a really good pitch, you have to think, to your point, if I can get this thing up 3, 4, 5 more pitches, now I'm starting to really put a lot of pressure. 28's a lot of pitches. It's not backbreaking. When you start to get in the 30s, the 40s, forget it. You've had a bad start. Can I ask you a
question, though? When the bat was starting, right? Mm-hmm. It was at 27 pitches. You mentioned 27 is not going to kill you. 35, 40 might kill you. So if I had to ask you, what is Austin Wells? Is he a fastball hitter or a breaking ball hitter? What would you describe him as?
He is a fastball hitter.
He is a fastball hitter. It's exactly the conclusion I expected. We watch every game. Our audience watches every game. They know exactly what he's looking for. That's why he swung first pitch. What is Yamamoto? I brought this up earlier in the show. What does Yamamoto lead the league in? Every single pitcher who's ever touched the mound this season in 2025, Yamamoto does this more than anybody else. It is reach 3-2. Tell me why, when he's not throwing strikes, you would think you're not going to see a 3-2 pitch in this at-bat. Of course you are. So what it tells me, you shouldn't be swinging. That's 1. And 2, the pitch that you were trying to jump on the first pitch, you would have just seen the same pitch at 3-2. And you probably would have rolled it over, just like you did before, because you're still Austin Wells. But Yamamoto's at 35 pitches, 34 pitches. That's the difference. So this is where game plan, and again, we left this for the very end of the show. I hated it when I watched it. Didn't want to harp on it because there was so much positive that happened today. But there's just no possible way you can hop into the batter's box and not think about these things. It's just common sense. It is. I get relievers throw hard. They don't give up runs. It doesn't mean as much as it used to. Getting into the bullpen, it's the last game of the series. We don't really care what they do with their pen. But guys, we also have to use some common sense. You don't want Yamamoto in the game longer than he needs to be. He's still a great pitcher. He has history, positive history against you. He should have been taking all the way, probably taking 2, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agreed. And that to me is not picking on him. Those are the things that matter. And those are, like, especially, you do that against the Colorado Rockies, it's annoying, but you're not going to get on him as much. When you do that against the Dodgers, where the margin for error is that slim, and you're talking about this being an event, it's going to get blown up a little bit more. It's a bigger spot, especially a pitcher that Wells is on that team. He was in that lineup, dominated the Yankees in the postseason.
Sure
you
did.
should know better. So, yeah. Thank you to the Blue Jays for gifting us Yard Goat. I love that.
Thank you to Brian Cashman as well. This was not a move anybody was excited about. We didn't know how they were going to use him. Jake, I think you and I guessed he's going to be a long reliever. There's value in that. We were actually excited about the prospect of that.
Yeah, we liked him, but we didn't think he'd be this.
Yeah, we're not going to sit up here in front of all these people.
I knew he'd have a 3 ERA.
Yeah, I knew he'd be working
starter.
Long innings.
Yeah.
And then Ed W. with the super. Ed's always been great to this podcast. Thank you for the
Ed.
5, Ed. Says Wells has at bat so bad that if we get a third baseman with 750 ops, catching Rice, DHing Stanton, and benching Wells makes offensive sense. Blasphemy. What do you think about that?
Wells has AB so bad that if we get a third base with 750 plus OPS, catching Rice, DH. I had to reread that.
There's essentially a lot at work here, but
I don't
Stanton is back,
hate it. I don't want to come off as like I'm just closing the door on Wells. I'm not. But at some point or another, like Wells, and keep in mind, right around this time, he was starting to really turn it around last year, and now he's up to 213. So like he's got his average up, like he's not below 200 anymore. So there is hope that he's going to build off this. But to be fair, I thought Austin Wells was going to have like a 260, 270 type of season, 800 to like 780 to 800 OPS.
Oh, you had high hopes. I had like 245,
did.
which I don't want to try and make myself sound smarter than I am. I'm not.
Well, I was closer to what he actually has.
I was definitely hotter on that. No, I thought he was going to hit 240 with pop, which is still really good.
Yeah.
I know today's game, like especially old school fans, they hate the idea that a good player hits 250. It's not the baseball you're used to. But guys are throwing harder, spin rate, the mentality's different, analytics are different. So, yeah, I thought Austin Wells was going to hit 240 to 250 on the high end with pop, 20-plus homers, frame well, still not be able to throw to the bags. He isn't doing that. So, yeah, but he's not. So, to your point, Jake, he did start to turn it around maybe a couple weeks from now. He turns it on. And then by All-Star break, everyone's like, Austin Wells, he's not Posada, but he's something less than that, and that's great. I understand it's easy to do that when he's playing well, but are we willing to accept what it looks like in these dry spots that he has? And they're extended. So, yeah, I don't blame you, Ed, for bringing up the idea that his bat hasn't been consistent enough, and that it's not that we are giving up on Wells, it's that we're putting stock in the players that he listed there. I think it's more so that.
If you catch Rice, that gives you at least one day a week where you can be like, he's in our lineup with Stanton, right?
That'd be nasty.
It really would. I just want to put this out there. I think Jazz Chisholm is going to come back with a vengeance. I'm actually very excited. I think he got his swing back. I was watching some of his at-bats. Looked way more aggressive, but controlled aggression, not like just swinging at everything, but also confident. 109 off the bat, his first bit of contact. I know it's AAA, or AA, but I really liked what I saw from Jazz Chisholm. I'm excited. It looks like he's going to be back this week in all likelihood, but we do have two injuries to discuss. Talked about Jason Dominguez, but we also need to talk about Luke Weaver. So Luke Weaver felt something in his hamstring, according to Boone. That's why he didn't come in. I think a lot of people are very concerned about this. I'm not, because it's not an elbow, it's not an arm. Hamstring sucks. It can linger, but they are going to get Cruz back. Jake Cousins is doing bullpen. Beater's ready to go. Brubaker just actually shoved in one of his outings, in his rehab assignment. They have guys that I think could get them past if Devin Williams is able to hold his own like he did tonight. So
agreed.
That's my take, Gary. I understand there's totally reason to be concerned. I get it. But a hamstring to me is good compared to what it could be. Like when I hear a reliever's injured, a hamstring is not what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking immediately elbow, like UCL, Tommy John. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Johnny Lowe was killing it last year early on, and they're like, yeah, he's done for the year. And they're like,
yeah, I would say this, though. Here's my hesitation. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Williams has shown he can be a closer, but not for us. He's shown, especially tonight, you mentioned that he looked really good today. Looked like the Dodgers couldn't touch him. That's a good thing. But he didn't do it in a situation that if Weaver's out, he didn't do it in a situation that he would be pitching in, especially long term. Like if you're talking about a hamstring, the Yankees are not going to mess with this at all. They're not going to take any risk. So having said that, the entire time that Weaver wouldn't be pitching, we have no idea how long this is going to last. We don't have a prognosis here. We just have a quote of him saying, I felt something. So what it tells us, you're going to be seeing Devin Williams in the ninth inning. Is he ready for that? We're going to find out. But nothing he's done up until this point, and there's been actually quite a few positives. He had a nice little stretch there where you're like, Devin Williams can be trusted. But none of that trust came in the 9th inning when we were preserving a lead. So I want people to just understand that. It doesn't mean we have to say the sky's falling, he's going to crap himself. No, it just means that there's a question mark, there's a question to be answered. So I'm hoping Devin Williams can pitch well. He hasn't shown that yet when it matters, but it seems like the way it's kind of teeing up with these injuries, it's going to come to that again. And so we're going to see if Matt Blake maybe can get that figured out. See if Devin Williams, between his ears, can get it figured out, because that's where it seems to be, is between those ears.
No, it's true. Thank you,
Do you want to get
Apex.
to Prophet X with the Guardians Boston predictions? I think that would probably make a lot of sense.
I was going to use this to show for it into it. Appreciate you. Yeah. I appreciate you, Apex. Guardians Boston predictions. Let's start with the Guardians here. We'll throw a little quick, was it Salt Bay with the...
Yeah. I'm excited for this Guardians series because I have high hopes.
I do too. This is a big series. The Guardians are not a great road team, and the Yankees have kind of had their number. And this is a rematch of the, ALCS. So, Bybee, right? He has had some interesting games against the Yankees. He's on the hill, 3.86 ERA, 4-5, 1.27 WHIP. He's a guy that's not going to strike you out every inning. Has 50 strikeouts in 63 innings. He gives up a lot of home runs. He's given up 12 home runs, Gary, 59 hits. Back at Yankee Stadium. They're off tomorrow. They'll be there Tuesday. So Carlos Rodon is going to be on the hill. And remember I said, I'm so glad Carlos Rodon did not feel the wrath of the Dodgers, because that means he's going to be good to go with a 7-3 record, 2.60 ERA, a .94 WHIP. When do you remember Carlos Rodon having a .94 WHIP?
Yeah, technically it could have worked out for Rodon, so we don't want to just throw him in the deep end and say
it could
fake,
have, but
we didn't want to see what it looked like if he did get punched in the jaw. You don't want to see that. I want to see his test just at the end.
Exactly.
Don't show me the test in early June, late May. He fails, he flunks the test, and then all of a sudden he's got to show up for finals at the end of the year. I don't want that. So, Jake, I love that you brought that up. I know you said that a couple people in the comments or maybe a couple people on Twitter were bringing this up. I agree with that. I didn't want to see it. But Rodon should, especially against this Cleveland team, you mentioned they don't play well on the road. Rodon should be good. I now assume his start more times than not is going to be good. So am I a fool for now placing expectations? I don't think so. I personally feel like earlier in the season, I said, what's my expectations? I think he'll just be okay. He'll have some really good starts. He'll have some really bad starts, but not a ton in between. What's Rodon shown? I've worked on the sinker. I'm not just telling you about it. I'm throwing it. I'm working on the changeup. He's throwing it. And now, for the long term, he's been good. So now I feel like with long-term success, I can look at Carlos Rodon and look at a positive matchup, which is the Cleveland Guardians. We just sent them packing last year. We essentially humbled them. And now nobody believes in them. We're going to show up to the stadium. Long road trip. I'm ready to go back home to Yankee Stadium. Let's go win a series.
Yeah. And, for Prophet X, I think I'm going to go with total bases. Let's jump on the Ben Rice train, right? Bybee is a right-handed pitcher. Ben Rice is playing. If he doesn't play tomorrow, on Tuesday, I'll be at the stadium to scold Boone. But no, he's going to play. He has a home run in the 3 matchups that he's had against Bybee. And so I like him. Carlos Santana is the guy to look out for, because he just I don't know what it is. He's had 48 plate appearances against Rodon. And unlike Jose Ramirez, who has a 748 OPS against Carlos Rodon and 54 plate appearances, Carlos Santana's a 985 OPS.
Wow.
Yeah. He's got 2 home runs, 357 batting average. Yeah. He's had 15 hits and 42 at-bats. So he's the guy to look out for. And then, you always have to know about Steven Kwan, because he'll just stick his bat out and it'll go in the left field for a base hit.
He's probably the player that I would most want. Certainly there's players out there that are just completely unrealistic for the Yankees to ever get. Steven Kwan's one of those players. He's just a baseball player.
Yeah.
Great defense in left field. Great defense. He's got a good arm. He gets rid of the ball. Just kind of like Cody Bellinger out there. He's lengthy. He's not a tall guy, obviously as tall as Bellinger, but he just tends to get to the ball, make proper reads. He just looks athletic everywhere he plays. And then obviously what he does with the bat, he's always all over the base pass. Ideal Yankees leadoff hitter, but never going to happen. But I wanted to get to this. And by the way, guys, before I get to it, I'll throw it up on screen now. If you're signing up with ProfitX, please make sure you drop the code YANKSU. It helps us out a ton. And of course, liking this video really tricks the algorithm and tells YouTube that it's essentially your way of telling them that you liked our video. And they feel like if you watched 90 minutes of a podcast and left having not liked the video, they think that you just did not like the podcast somehow, some way. That's what YouTube does.
So they're just stupid.
It is. They are. Yeah, they're. I won't insult them just in case someone at YouTube's listening, but they're not necessarily smart. But Ed W. with the chat here, he's a member here at Yankees Unloaded, says, why is Carlos Carrasco back? I'm going to give you a short answer here before we wrap. Carlos Carrasco is here today because the Yankees have a banged-up bullpen. Ryan Yarbrough was starting against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and if he got blown up and the score was 4-0 in the second inning, and Boone said, I think I got to pull the plug on this.
Reyes would have been pitching a lot.
Reyes would have been pitching probably in the 7th or 8th inning. Carlos Carrasco would have just died on the cross. It would have been innings 3 through 6. They're just going to bat around. You're going to watch Ohtani doing all this stuff and all the dances, and you just leave Carlos Carrasco out there. He's obviously a veteran that's deserving of a ton of credit for what he's done in his career, but at this stage, sometimes he's good. Sometimes he just needs to be the bug on the windshield and just go out there and eat innings. I think that's why he's here, Ed.
Yeah, and I also want to add, the Yankees played the Guardians. They lost the series earlier in the year. Rodon actually won that game. So instead of bringing up Rodon's past, why don't we just talk about what he's done against them this year? Because he won the game, 4 hits, 7 innings strong, no earned runs, 11 strikeouts. So that was in Cleveland. I expect Rodon to kind of run roughshod of this lineup. Just worry about Carlos Santana because that success is enormous against him. But yeah, I like the Yankees. I will be going with the money line. I'll go with the run line, actually. I think this is going to be, following from this Dodger win, I think the Yankees are about to go on another long run. So I like the Yankees offense back at the stadium, and I'm going to say run line for the Yankees. I'm going to say Ben Rice, total bases and Rodon strikeouts, and just leave it at that.
Beautiful. And I've got the comment. Please drop in our comments, not here on the live video. I know it helps the algorithm, but drop it in on the video after we're done live. Drop in the reliever that you think the Yankees should go get. Obviously,
there's
Luke
no
Weaver's
way that you said that. I was literally going to say that.
Well, great minds think alike. That's why we're co-hosts. But
yes, that's so
drop
funny.
in that reliever. Luke Weaver is banged up. Cruz, actually, before we go here, I would probably throw Cruz in the 9th inning before I threw Williams. Just my opinion. I trust Cruz more than I do Williams in that spot. I think the way Cruz pitches with confidence, he kind of reminds me actually a lot of Wandy Peralta. I don't know if you guys really cared when he took the mound, but his confidence sort of projected out on the mound. He just had a little bit more command, obviously, with the changeup. But Cruz is a guy I would rather have in the 9th inning than Devin Williams. So please drop in the reliever that you would want, and we'll get to those. We'll definitely read them. I know we comment back all the time in the comment section.
Yeah, so no Weaver for Boston. Appreciate you, Apex. Oh, yeah, you mentioned Boston. I think the Yankees are probably going to win 2 out of 3 against the Guardians, and I think they sweep Boston at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, Boston stinks.
So the Yankees will have Rodon, Schmidt, Fried, Warren, Yarbrough. They always leave Yarbrough's spot blank. I don't know why.
His nickname, you remember the nicknames they used to have on the back of the jerseys? His should be TBD.
Yeah, he literally is a walking TBD. So Rodon, Schmidt, Fried for the Cleveland series, and then Warren, Yarbrough, Rodon against Boston. I wouldn't count on Weaver. They're going to try and play this thing probably conservatively, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on the IL. But again, that's not a concern for me. If they're losing him for 10 games, like, that's fine. I don't want to have him gone for the whole year. But if this is a long-term thing, real quick, Luis Gil. That's my prediction. I think he'll end up being their closer. If it's a long-term,
wow,
Luis Gil, as soon as he comes back, they'll be like, you're our closer.
We'll probably talk about that concept when he gets healthy. And if they just don't have him starting games, they trade for a guy, trade for Peralta, and they just don't put Gil back out there. He doesn't come back till late. Then maybe. So we'll see. He clearly has the stuff to be a closer. As a closer, you're probably going to see 99, 100, 101, nasty slider. Reliever stuff and starter stuff is different. It is.
Yeah.
So
they
I'd
don't
be
want him
interested to
throwing
see what
that hard,
looks like.
obviously, as a starter. But to your point,
Right.
reliever, yeah, just let it loose. So
Yeah, it'd be nuts.
that is going to do that. We appreciate you guys tuning in again. Definitely be sure. What is be sure? I don't know what that is. Be sure.
V-Boss.
Be sure after we sign off, don't put it in the chat, follow instructions, drop in the comments section after this thing and put the reliever that you want the Yankees to trade for. That's it.
And of course,
that's all I got.
Like the video.